G'day, Aussie Bonsai Bloke, here you going. Today, I've got no idea what video it is, that's the start. And secondly, we're going to do a weed and a trim on this, hello, on this Hawthorne forest that I put together 2 years ago, 2.5, maybe 2.5 years ago at the halfway house. I remember doing it there because I had fishing line wrapped around all the trunks because I chucked a heap of hawthorns together that I had. I chucked them all together. I had quite a few, probably, I don't know, 8 or 10, a bit like the olive forest that I've done. And I had all these hawthorns, so I chucked them all together, piled them in. I had cut a lot of roots off and most of them were just flopping around everywhere, so I just put a heap of fishing line around all the trunks and around all the trees, and then they sort of held together as one big clump. And I had to keep it out the wind for a while. I think one tree died, I'm not sure, I can't remember. I don't even know what's in here, I forget. So today the idea is just to weed it and trim it. Now for the weeding, I'm just going to turn the camera off and weed it, and then turn the camera back on. I suppose I could do it on hyperlapse. No, hyperlapse is pretty easy. I'm a bit time poor. I've got to mow, water, and unload some stuff off the ute and put some more stuff back on it. So, a bit time poor, but I've probably got an hour up my sleeve, so should be alright. I've got about an hour to do this. So I'll do a hyperlapse on the weeding, and then to make editing easy, I'm not going to do any editing. I'm just going to go music on the hyperlapse, and then I'm just going to keep you guys live for the whole thing, and I'm just going to chuck it up how it is. So apart from the weeding, you're going to watch the whole rest of the process, start to finish, and I won't pick and choose because last night's video, even though it was fun with the sun, there was some editing that we had to do in between us two mucking around, and I reckon it was about a 2-hour process to edit that half-hour video. But that was all good fun. But tonight I'm a bit time poor, so we won't be doing all that. So I better get to it, stop talking and start working. So time for the hyperlapse on the weeding. G'day guys, welcome back. Now let's get underway with the trimming. Now I'm still on my diet, so I'm still drinking my coffee. Once I get this, pork belly under control, we'll get back on the beers and the port. Make it a bit more entertaining, it'll be a bit more silly, but for now, drinking the old coffee in my big cup. I might still sneak a bit of a crazy video in every now and then when I get carried away and fall off my diet wagon or have a cheat day. But hopefully this diet won't last long and I'll be back in business. Okay, so there's, I'll just count them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 trees in here. 13 trees, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start on one and just individually trim them all down until finally they're all trimmed. Also, I'm doing something different. That's the front of the planting. I'm going to start at the back and work my way around from the back first, I reckon. Something different. I can't remember the last time I trimmed this. I think I did give it a trim in autumn, I think. I'm not sure. So the idea is I'm just going to trim it back to fairly short shoots, almost to like an outside silhouette, but pretty well just let the branches determine where they want to sort of grow out and where it's not grown out. As as far as just cut everything back to a short shoot, 2 or 3 nodes depending on the vigor. Looking at the figure here, I reckon I can safely get away with 3 nodes, which is still narrower than my thumbnail for the length of extension on it. If I see so I think that's good enough. So 3 on this one. So like I say, the amount of extension probably overrides the amount of extension that you get when you want to divide your branches. Probably overrides the actual idea of how many internodes. I think the internode length, or how many internodes to cut it back to, should be more determined on length rather than how many. So, you know, a really short internoded tree like a box could go up to 4 internodes. Something really vigorous like a maple, only 1 internode, and sometimes the maple will grow that fast that even the first internode is so far away that you just cut the whole thing off and hope that the second flush is weak and let it go again. These here seem pretty good, so I'm just going to cut to that sort of length, which is about 3 internodes. Once you decide however many internodes, you can count them and just cut every bit of extended growth back to 3 internodes throughout the whole tree. There may be variations from one tree to another as well, so I'll keep an eye out for that. And shoots, you know, that shoot there is quite vigorous, and the 3rd internode was too long, so I cut it only back to 2. And just stuff like that, you know, there's never any hard fast rules. Anything from the inside of the crotches got to go, and anything, you know, and at the top of the trees, the fat ones go, keep the thin ones to try and balance out the energy. Bottom of the tree, keep the fatter branches and get rid of the thin. If we have to chop out one of the branches because there's 3 in one location or something like that. That branch there went from this little baby back tree all the way throughout the front of the tree. So the sun must have been over there somewhere at some stage. Now this hawthorn has got some quite aggressive needles on it. You can see that, really aggressive needles, so just be careful for that. I mean, you'll soon find out if you get a bit crazy and vigorous with it, because you'll get stabbed. So that's one way to find out that, to be more careful. Like the kids eating hot food, they soon learn not to eat hot food too fast. So I'll just trim around here. Another thing too, I thought, you know, I only have maybe 80 trees, so I thought I'd work on 30 trees in 30 days. With the ones that I've already worked on, I'll probably be pretty well caught up in my collection, but I tell you what guys, I'm looking out the door, looking at all the stuff out there, and I've still got a lot of trees that can be worked on even now. So what I end up doing with that in the future, who knows, I'll just keep working on it, keep working away. Spring is a hard time, you know, to keep up with everything, but a great time. I absolutely love spring. Spring's best time for bonsai, watching all the new growth on everything. Absolute best time. Now hawthorns, if they do get a 3rd branch from one location, if you can see it now, cut it off. You can go back and fix it up in winter, but I will warn you this, hawthorns get fat knuckles very quickly on the end of their growth. They get this really coarse looking stop to their branches at the end, where you've got you'll have 2 baby twigs coming out, and they end up with this really coarse sort of finish to the branches. Yeah, so just got to be really careful not to leave too many shoots from one location, or you do get rapid swelling. Just part of the tree that you've got to realise. can't see them when you get them in winter, well, bad luck. And if you have a really fat section of tree that you've got to then cut off in winter because it had 3 or 4 shoots, I guess just bad luck. Don't stress too much about trying to get them all now because it is pretty hard to see in here. And you might end up doing damage to some good branches while you're trying to look in there. In winter it'll all be easy, you can trim it then without any fuss really. So what else on this tree? Brief history. After I initially put all these trees in the pot, it had some really weak growth that year, really weak. Some of the trees did okay, but some of them just struggled and was sort of half brown, half yellow. We had, I believe after I did it, it wasn't long after that we came out here to the desert. And if you remember back to those videos, it looked like Mars, 100% looked like Mars. Three in that location, so I just chopped one off. And it really struggled, it burnt, a lot of stuff went brown. I'm pretty sure actually it 100% defoliated itself, pretty sure. And which was, you know, a little bit depressing because I was trying to water my trees out in the paddock, the big trees that I put up for a shelter belt. I was really busy trying to water those, and I didn't have a watering system set up for outside. Things were really hectic. There's no automatic water, there was no constant water supply, so I would go to water. I had no pressure pump. I would go to water and there'd be no water pressure, and I'd be out there for an hour just to sort of half wet things down, knowing that the next day is going to be over 40 again, and I've only half wet things down. Then something else would happen and I'd be off doing something else, and it was just a real battle until I got some automatic watering set up. I think I got a very primitive automatic watering set up during that first summer, I believe, towards the end of it maybe, because it was just out of control. Another thing I had to do was put up some fencing because the wind, drying wind, was just blowing right through the whole lot and causing serious problems. It was just so hard, and this tree here really suffered because, as you know, these hawthorns are more for a climate in the hills type cooler weather country, not out in the desert country. So they really hated it, defoliated. I think by autumn that year they sort of half budded in some areas with some really weak wispy shoots, or buds that extended to 1 inch long for the whole branch. It was just really sad to look at. Then last year, which was the second year of its growth, it started out pretty well. Some things were slow to shoot because it was still recovering from the year before, but it did actually start out pretty well. And then what happened? I got busy mucking around with the watering system, watering the other tree, getting the watering system going for the shelter belt trees. And by the time I'd come inside, I was too tired to check to see whether this automatic watering system had watered properly. And there was several occasions where the battery went flat, or a hose came off, or just something would happen, or there was a sprayer in the wrong spot which had, I don't know, fallen over or something, and there was a dry spot on the benches. And this tree dried out again, really sad to see. And along with other good trees that I've got, dried out, better than this one, they dried out too. But, as resistant as they are, a lot of them shot back and started to look nice and strong again. And this one put on some good growth before autumn last year. And then during winter this year, I was really fortunate to get that shade shelter going. And I tell you what, the trees this year are 100% insane, the amount of growth. And not only the growth, but the health of the trees. They're just so green and healthy and just full of energy at the moment. They're just having a really good year so far. We even had a 38-degree day the other day when it was hot in the shed, and this tree didn't even blink. You know, I'm making myself go out, walk amongst the trees on hot days, look around, not just sit back inside and hope the heck that everything survives. I'm actually going out, looking around, looking for dry patches on my benches where I could move some irrigation or put some extra, you know, that system that I've got outside that I've shown you before, it's nowhere near maxed out. I can put in a lot more sprays in that system, and I still will be when I need them. So if I get extra trees or benches, or I find dry spots, it's extremely easy for me just to go and get another mister sprayer, bit of 4mm pipe, and put out a whole new little line for that particular mister to cover in a dry spot or a new area where I put a new tree. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. So anyway, I am doing a lot of walking around in the trees and just keeping an eye out on everything, especially the ones that I know that are less hardy. Like the olives last year here did really well. They had a lot of growth. They were really happy. Didn't have any problem with them at all. But some of these more delicate things did dry out on some occasions. But all in all, last year was okay considering, because I did have a half decent reliable system for watering by then with that pump, pressure pump, the header tank, and I had good water pressure, consistent water. Another thing that would happen with the old system, sorry to harp on about the watering, but another thing that would happen with the old system is that I would have everything running good, it's all running good, checked on it a few days in a row, everything's getting wet enough. You know, the water pressure was that crappy that I had to have 12 lines, 6 lines. I had to have 6 separate lines on 2 different taps with 2 controllers just to get enough pressure to run the misters, and it was maxed out. That's what the 12 come from. It could only run 12 misters on each line, 19mm polypipe. It could only run 12 misters, so it's extremely stretched. Now, with that pressure pump, and sometimes the water would that's right, and then sometimes the water actually would go right off or run right out of pressure because the neighbour up the hill would be watering and everyone would be watering, the sheep would be drinking out the trough, that would be filling up, and you would literally have no water pressure, and the bonsais just didn't water that night. It would just be bad luck. And then another thing that would do with the low water pressure is cause the control boxes to jam up with bits of grit and stuff like that. And I ended up going through a couple of control boxes as well. So it was extremely painful for the first couple of years here, but as with everything, things are sorting out, getting a lot better, a lot more reliable. I'm starting to know the place and the heat better too. I'm adapting, you know, you've got to adapt to whatever new environment you got. My old place was still really hot, but my old place, one, had the benefit of good water pressure all the time, but 2, it had also a great benefit that all your neighbours had big trees, you know, big trees up on their fences, sheds, houses, and what that caused is it stopped all the wind and created little microclimates everywhere. Everyone's backyard is almost a microclimate where you've got a lot less wind, shade from big trees that come over, stuff like that. So it was a lot easier. I could put little lean-tos up the side of sheds, just little ones. It was a lot easier to manage things and to keep things cool and put a really delicate plant sort of half under a tree for afternoon shade or even shade nearly all day. Whereas when I moved out here, it was full sun, full wind, no protection, crappy water pressure, and it was seriously an absolute nightmare. But like I say, I've got it licked now. Everything, well, I won't say I got it licked now because as soon as you say that, something happens and, you know, the pump might blow up and then I've killed either trees or, you know, they get set back again. But luckily, I only lost maybe 2 trees out of the whole moving and the heat. Otherwise, they've actually been okay and survived pretty well, really. But yeah, I'm just really excited this year. They're just looking so healthy. I think we'll do another tour of all the trees soon as well. Maybe towards the end of the 30 videos, we'll go out there and do a bit of a tour. So I'm pretty happy with how I've worked on that. It's pretty well cut back. Could maybe do a little bit more here and there. That one's alright. You know, on this big fat trunk, I've left a couple in each spot. In some areas, I don't think it's a big deal to do that. It seems okay. This tree out to the side is so vigorous that it's just a big ball of green. And same with this one. It's pretty right though, like there's no extra branching really anywhere. It's just so healthy that you just can't see in there. It's just really, really healthy. Really cool. Really good to see. There's a few longer branches that I've missed. There's bound to be some in the middle here that need to be cut off in winter, but I can't see them now. And it's just going to be too much effort to try and see them. But for now, you guys get the idea. And I don't want to put my hands in here too much because, you know, these things are spiky. There's a few crossing branches in the middle in there. So, got a few. I'll just have a look from lesser front there. So this is a main tree. This is a main tree. At the back here, that one's starting to get towards competing with that, but it sort of adds a bit of depth and you can then see something happening at the back. So I'm going to leave it grow a bit more for now. Going to leave these longer branches on. They look a bit funny now, but they'll get shoots out and fill in pretty well. And at the same time, this here up the top will start to do the same. Just found 3 branches in a couple of spots. Don't want that. Get rid of that. And I've also got to carve this main trunk as just a straight cut off saw cut. At the moment, I haven't done any carving on it. There's another one here with, it's actually got quite a bit of a flaw. Not that one. That one's okay. I'll cut that one. Okay. This one here's got quite a floor. It's got 4 coming from one location and it's getting quite a knuckle on it. Looks like last time I worked on it, I left 4. So, you know, not always perfect. I left 4. And it looks like I was too lazy to get in there and clean it during the winter. And much better. So I've actually taken that knob, there was 4 here. I've taken that whole knob off and just sort of gouged into it pretty heavily. But hopefully those 2 little branches on the side here survive and keep growing, and that'll get rid of that problem. Like I say, in winter I can come and clean up any other problem that we have. Well, that's about it. I didn't really tell you too much about working on the tree, just talked about me irrigation problems more than anything, and about how healthy my trees are this year. I'm just absolutely loving this spring. This spring's just going beautifully at the moment. I've only had the one 38-degree day, otherwise it's been pretty good. That's Celsius too, by the way. And I don't even consider that a hot day because last year we had 48. The year before we had a 49. So I consider 38 pretty cool. Alright, I think that's about it for now. That's the Hawthorne forest. I'll be going to do my other jobs, get the mower out, mow the lawn, water the lawn, water some trees, some of the shelter belt trees. There's a few little stragglers that just need some hand watering here and there because they're, you know, struggling. I still go out, give them a bit of a helping hand. Don't like to see a little tree struggling around. Can't help myself, I've got to get out there and help it along. Okay, no worries, I'll give you a bit of a spin on the way out. We don't have Seth to hold the light today or do the spinning, so I'll see how I go holding it all by myself and spinning it with the light. No worries, cheers for watching Aussie Bonsai Bloke. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your mates about the channel. Really appreciate all your watching, comments, everything like that. Means a great deal, and it's the reason I do it. No worries. Cheers. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you tomorrow.